As Israel persists in its aggression, Antony Blinken is once again journeying to the Middle East in search of a peace that remains painfully elusive. And as the United States election approaches, Kamala Harris and Donald Trump are desperately campaigning swing states in a pursuit of a few stray votes that may permanently alter the nation's destiny. Stay tuned with us. You're watching In Focus. Welcome. Israeli occupation forces have blown up homes and besieged schools and shelters for displaced people as they deepen their operations in Jabalia in the northern Gaza Strip. The Palestinian Civilian Defense say the occupation forces are carrying out extensive attacks in the northern Gaza Strip, destroying homes and shelters. According to Israel, troops have continued ground operations across the Gaza Strip, especially in the Jabalia area. Israeli forces have pressed ahead with a massive offensive in northern Gaza amid an escalation of Israeli bombardments in dozens of homes in Jabalia, Beit Lahia and Beit Hanun. Amid the escalating situation in Gaza, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken will head to the Middle East today in an attempt to kickstart ceasefire negotiations to end the war on Gaza. The New York Times highlighted the long-awaited visit that comes as Israel intensifies its aggressions in Gaza and Lebanon. According to the newspaper, this visit is Blinken's 11th since the war began. In a statement announcing the trip, State Department spokesman Matthew Miller said that Blinken will have another agenda items during his trip, including planning for the governorcy and the security of Gaza after the end of Israelis' attacks in the territory. Delving more into this, we are now joined from Amman by Dr. Hassan El-Daja, a professor of strategic studies, to discuss the current situation in Gaza. Welcome, sir, and it's a pleasure to have you with us on our show.
Good evening to you and all.
Sir, as Israel intensifies its aggression in Gaza and doesn't want to stop, how do you perceive the latest Israeli strikes that destroyed homes in Jabalia and Beit Lahia and Beit Hanun, sir?
I think the United States gives the Israeli government 1 month of permission to kill the people, the Palestinian people in Gaza and North Gaza and Jabalia camp. In the title of giving 1 month permission to enter the humanitarian aids to Gaza, by the way which the Israeli government think to utilize this permission. I think this permission is clear that the United States is satisfied what the Israeli occupied army is doing in Gaza. So it is continue its destructive of buildings and killing the people of Palestinian people in Gaza and doing more genocide and mass killing to the people, innocent people in Gaza. So I think it will continue its work, the plan to destroy more and more in Gaza and to make life is unsuitable, unacceptable life for the Palestinian. And this is pushing them to migration or to be a refugee outside of Gaza. Yes.
Sir, Palestinian civil defense spokesperson Mahmoud Basel said Israeli attacks aim to displace residents from northern Gaza. Do you think Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has intensified fighting in Gaza for that reason? And if not, sir, what is the reasons behind what Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is doing at this point, as you can see on what's happening as we talk now?
I think Netanyahu's more vision of this war to non-stop war, to continue this war, because he knows that if he stops this war, then the government will be.
He will be a war crime, sir, and this is so he has to continue what he's doing.
Yes, I think his government will finish, then will stop running the office because of Smotrich and Ben-Gvir. Always they threat him that if the war stop, then they will resign from this government, then he will face the court.
That's yes, and why he will be a war crime criminal, sir.
This both the world crime criminal court and inside court for the some cases that claim against Netanyahu. In other way, Netanyahu is thinking that he can reset the political map of the Middle East by winning a victory in Gaza, and that still he is not getting this aim and fulfill this objective in Gaza. Still, the
sir, do you think this objective, you said it cannot be achieved in any of his objectives. Do you think till today is any achieved? Did he achieve any of his objectives? His four main objectives, which is one of them is changing the map?
Yeah, let's say that the main objectives in Gaza is to kill the leader of Hamas, to deprive Hamas from its ability to resist against Israel, and to retain the hostages from Hamas. All of this, even one of them is applied as killing the leaders of Hamas. But you know, as Hamas is a movement, there is many leaders will come out and lead the movement ahead.
Yes.
Yeah, that's one.
So is the case with Hezbollah, sir. As U.S. Secretary, yes. So yes. As U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken makes another trip to the Middle East, what might this differentiate his visit from the previous visits, which we said were 7 visits, in terms of ending war on Gaza at this point, sir?
I think this is the 11th visit of Blinken.
11th. I'm sorry. Yes, 11th, sir. I'm very
sorry. Yes. 11th visit to the region. I think they should get advantage of killing Yahya Sinwar as applying or...
You mean take advantage, sir?
Yes, taking advantage of killing Sinwar to claim that they won the war, even though it's not. But at least if he is willing to retain hostages by negotiation, he should end the war now and start negotiation with Hamas through Egypt and Qatar. But I don't think so that the Netanyahu's government will do as we mentioned. Blinken is coming just to let what you can say to calling the situation not to extend the war beyond Gaza and South Lebanon and other places. So he wants to recall that they don't want to go in comprehensive war with Iran and others. As we know that we are waiting for the air attacks or missiles of Israeli missiles to Iran and the reply from Iran to Israel. But I think Israel will do this attack, but I think the priority for Israel is just to finish their objective in the south of Lebanon, which they couldn't do anything till now, which he can claim to his people that he get victory or win against Hezbollah. Hezbollah still working, still fighting, still attacking by missile and by drone, even in new cities like Haifa, Caesarea, the Tel Aviv and other places in Nasra. Still, it is, they are fighting and the missiles reaching to these places. This will not
Okay, sir,
fulfill
in
the
10 seconds, because I have to wrap up this segment. Sir, are you optimistic about this visit at this point?
No, I don't think so. I
You're
think
not
Blinken
optimistic. And
is
with
just,
this note, sir,
yes, yes.
we have to end this segment. Thank you very much from Amman, Dr. Hassan Daja, Professor of Strategic Studies. Thank you for your sharing your insights today with us, your informative knowledge. And dear viewers, now we move on to the latest updates on the U.S. elections.
We will build what I call an opportunity economy.
We will make America great.
We're ready to fight for it. As one people, we are moving forward.
We will make America safe again.
The Washington Post has reported that Kamala Harris has a significant financial lead over Donald Trump, raising over $1 billion in the third quarter compared to Trump's $62 million in September. Despite this financial advantage, polls indicate a tight race, especially in key swing states. Harris leads in 4 out of 7 battleground states, though by narrow margins, while Trump maintains leads in Arizona, North Carolina, and Georgia. Both candidates' affiliated PACs have raised substantial sums, with Harris' support from the Future Forward PAC outpacing Trump's MAGA Super PAC. Overall, although Harris's campaign is well funded, the election remains highly competitive. And for more analysis on the approaching U.S. elections, we're joined by Joel Robin, former U.S. Deputy Secretary of State. Sir, it's a pleasure to have you with us today on the show and to have and listen about your informative knowledge more. Sir, a good day.
Good day. Thank you for having me.
Mr. Robin, given the close polling in swing states like North Carolina, how does the Harris campaign plan to address the concerns of voters impacted by the Hurricane Helene, while also countering Trump's claims about aid distribution, sir?
Well, it's great to be with you to discuss this election because, as you point out, it's very close, it's very tight. And all of the swing states, the states where the vote can fluctuate from one election to the other, those are the ones that matter. And to your point, North Carolina is one of the 7 most competitive states that really will determine who becomes the next president. And this tragedy in North Carolina with the hurricane, it gave an opportunity to the vice president to show her ability to lead and to help in recovery, which is why we saw Donald Trump so aggressively attack the vice president and the president and the Federal Emergency Management Agency, which is responsible for recovery, because he did not want it to appear as if the vice president was competent, which she is, and he did not want people to know that the local Republican leaders, elected officials, were happy with the way the vice president and President Biden were handling the aftermath, because they were. So it became very political, and this is the kind of difference between the two candidates, where one in Donald Trump.
Sir, sorry to interrupt you at this point, but I want to ask you a very important question with regards to what you are mentioning now. Do you think, from your point of view, that, of course, does Trump, does this make him seem detached from human suffering, or does this actually help him to reach the average U.S. citizen with the statements that he have been doing with regards to a natural disaster that happened that no one has hands in, and it happened suddenly? How do you read his statements at this point?
I'm glad you brought it up like this because we have an example. In 2012, President Obama went to the aid of New Jersey in Hurricane Sandy that was led by a Republican governor, Chris Christie. And Governor Christie was very grateful to the president. And that helped President Obama in the election, but it was the right thing to do. Governments are supposed to help their citizens. And so I think for Donald Trump, he's putting himself at risk with moderate voters who don't want to see someone playing politics with their safety.
So you don't like what he did, sir?
Oh, I think it's very anti-American. I think it's very dangerous to the American citizens of North Carolina. And I think it's the most cynical maneuver that a politician can make.
It's a very cynical maneuver. Yes, it is. And now we move on to John Rosomondo, a U.S. national security expert from Washington. A very good day, sir, and it's a pleasure to have you with us. And a good day.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, sir, Trump has accused the Biden administration of diverting disaster assistance away from Republican areas. How do you read these claims, and what evidence supports this stance?
Well, I think that the president is, trying to shore up his base and point out that areas that the administration has targeted. I mean, I think that one of the things that was telling was when Secretary Mayorkas said that there was not adequate funding for the accounts for the disaster relief in North Carolina, because the money had been spent earlier in the year on migrants. So I think that the administration has had other priorities instead of on disaster relief, and they created a human disaster by allowing millions of unvetted migrants into this country that even New York City Mayor Eric Adams said was a disaster and blamed Kamala Harris for it.
Okay, we go back again to Mr. Rubin. Despite fundraising advantages, the Harris campaign still faces a tight race in key states. What do you attribute this to, sir, and how does she plan to effectively convert financial resources into electoral success?
One thing I do want to mention is the reason for the funding shortfall is because the U.S. government is under a continuing resolution that the Republican-led House of Representatives could fix if they wanted to provide funding for relief in North Carolina. And the Speaker could call Congress back today, but they don't want to because they want to play politics. It has nothing to do with immigration. But why is this race tight? Because this country is divided right now. There is a very real difference between the two parties in overall vision for the country.
Sir, the parties, and what about the citizens of the United States? Don't you think that many ongoings that took place changed their perspective in any leader that could lead this very important, of course, state?
Well, I sure hope so, because there's a significant amount of Republicans who are supporting Kamala Harris, including former Vice President Dick Cheney. All of his cabinet senior officials who served in national security roles are not endorsing him, or none of them are endorsing Donald Trump. So I do think that Kamala Harris has the Democrats and a large chunk of Republicans, but that does not mean one wins an election. Elections are about turnout and motivation, and Donald Trump has been very good at keeping his voters motivated, and that's what we'll see. Can keep his voters motivated and also get new voters? I don't think so. But still, that's why we're so close, and that's why this country is very divided. In this country, a large number of voters love Donald Trump, regardless of what he does, including starting an insurrection.
Okay, sir, sorry to interrupt you, but as the race is very tight, what does Trump do to keep his voters motivated, like you just mentioned?
Well, he keeps giving them false information and red meat and hate. Hating immigrants, hating foreigners, spinning lies about the economy, and hating Kamala Harris. It seems to be a very viable strategy for this candidate to be very aggressive and hateful towards difference in the United States of America, which is not an American value, but nonetheless, he is causing great anxiety in a large segment of the population and makes them feel that he can provide comfort and safety and security to them with all of his fake conjured up threats that he continues to try to get the American people to believe.
Mr. Rosamondo, I want to ask you the same question here. What does Trump do to keep his voters motivated?
Well, I have to say that my Democratic colleagues' talking points are comical. If you look in Michigan, the Arab American vote is swaying toward Trump. You have the Yemeni Muslim mayor of Hamtramck, Michigan, endorsing Donald Trump. You have a lot of black Americans who are swaying toward Trump.
Sir, but Harris is leading in Pennsylvania and Nevada.
Well, it's all by within the margin of error. I think that it all comes down to whoever has the better ground game. And right now, the Trump campaign is really pushing out the vote to get people.
Why do you see it pushing out a vote, sir?
Well, I say that they're active, knocking on doors and connecting with ordinary Americans. I think the one thing that the Harris campaign has is she owns the rampant inflation that we've had over the past 4 years. I mean, if you look at the cost of groceries, I mean, regardless of whatever color an American is, they care about that. They care about safety in their communities. That's something that the Biden administration has not delivered. And
okay, Mr. Rosamondo, with polling and Mr. Rubin, with Kamala Harris collaborating with Republican figures like Liz Cheney in key swing states, what message is she hoping to send to moderate voters? How does this, sir, approach fit into the broader strategy to appeal to undecided voters in a polarized political landscape?
Well, this really is it. You described it very well.
Thank you, sir.
The undecided middle of the road voters in these swing states are up for grabs. And what Kamala Harris is doing is saying, look, I'm a reasonable, moderate leader. I have leading Republican voices like Liz Cheney, who was a senior Republican congresswoman in her own right, a strong defender of democracy. And she says, I should be the next commander in chief, and you cannot trust Donald Trump to be in the Oval Office. And that is very appealing to moderate voters who are paying attention only now. Many voters are just beginning to finally think about who they want to vote for. And those are the voters that need to be impacted. So that's why we see Kamala Harris with so many leading Republican voices right now in moderate independent spaces in the key states like Michigan and Pennsylvania and Wisconsin and elsewhere.
Mr. Rosamondo, Trump has labeled Democrats as enemies from within. How do you view this statement in terms of its impact on his support and the political climate, sir?
Well, let's just look at what the Democrats have done.
I beg your pardon, sir?
I said, let's look at what the Democrats have done in the area of foreign policy, where they have done everything to undermine Israel. The Jewish
they did everything to undermine Israel from your own perspective, sir?
I'm not going to let you say that.
Yeah, they understand that
the Democrats did everything to undermine Israel?
40 years.
That's laughable.
Well, the Democratic Party is laughable. I have to say
that's just laughable. President Biden has fulfilled every request. That makes no sense.
No, he has. He's done. You have the
Democrat
an embargo on arms on Israel.
That's not true. That's false. That's false. There's no arms embargo on Israel. It is not true. It's a lie. True. It's just not true.
It's not. Well, then you haven't been.
I've worked in this for years. There's no arms embargo on Israel. Israel has received almost $20 billion in military assistance.
There was a document that was leaked from the National Security Council and documents leaked from the Defense Department talking about an arms embargo. They've done
No,
everything.
that's not accurate.
Sir, are you deeply convinced that,
just not
that the
true.
Democrats undermined Israel? Are you deeply convinced?
I'm definitely convinced that the Democrats have done everything they can to try to win votes in Dearborn, Michigan, by undermining.
Said that Donald Trump was endorsed by an Arab American mayor.
Well, you have Donald Trump, Michigan.
So how is that the Democrats trying to do
Well,
whatever they can?
well, let's put it this way.
It doesn't make any sense.
There you go, putting words in my mouth. There you go, putting words in my mouth.
Okay, back again to Mr. Rosamondo and, of course, Mr. Rubin. I'll go back to Mr. Rosamondo just to ask him about Elon Musk's support for Trump is notable, especially with his cash giveaways. How do you see this influence impacting the election dynamics, sir?
Well, I don't think it'll have much of an impact on anything.
You don't think it has much of an impact?
Other than maybe a handful of people who might want a little cash to go to a rally or something like that, it won't have much of an impact. I mean, I think that Americans care more about the fact that their grocery bill is significantly higher since Donald Trump left office, and that the massive trillions of dollars that the Democrats and Kamala Harris spent in this administration that fueled inflation.
Mr. Rubin, Kamala Harris recently criticized Donald Trump's language as demeaning to the presidency. How do you believe this statement affects American political discourse and the perception of the United States internationally, of course, sir?
Well, first of all, no one should be giving money to voters to vote. That's illegal. There should be prosecutions. That's against American law. Second, look, Donald Trump racked up $8 trillion in debt in his 4 years. And in all independent economic analyses of the economic plans for both candidates, Donald Trump's debt increase is much higher in projections than is Kamala Harris's. And I think that that's just the thing that we're looking at here is truth versus fiction. And Americans know that Donald Trump is a serial liar. He's lied thousands of times when he was the president. He's a convicted criminal. And Kamala Harris is not. The hard part is that we have lies, including in this interview, about the positions and the facts.
Exactly, sir. Sir, before I wrap up this episode, because I'm running out of time,
but we have here
I have to end this episode. 14 days to election days. Who will win from your own point of view, Mr. Rubin and Mr. Rosamondo? I want final words to end this episode, please.
Thank you.
Who will win 14 days before the election day? Okay. And this wraps up. Thank you very much for. This was this was Joel Rubin, former U.S. Deputy Secretary of State, and John Rosamondo, U.S. National Security Expert from Washington. Thank you both for your insights, and that wraps up our episode today for In Focus. Stay tuned for more exclusive stories here on Qnews. Thanks for watching.